Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I want to first and foremost recognize the first mother of the nation, representing the first family here, Her Excellency, Madam Fatou Assombi Bojang, the President's mother. I also want to recognize the Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, ably represented by the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, who also doubles up as the Chairperson of the National Women's Council. My Lord, the Chief Justice, the Honorable Minister responsible for Presidential Affairs, the Civil Service, and also Secretary General of the government, but also Secretary General of our great party, the APRC. The indefatigable Honorable Minister of Tourism and Culture, Honorable Fatou Njie. The only problem with the name is Job, but there's nothing wrong with Njie. My other cabinet colleagues here present and honorable ministers, honorable members of the National Assembly, the Lord Mayors of Banjul as well as KMC, governors, of course singling out the only female governor of the Gambia, newly appointed by His Excellency the President, Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Ejeye Jammeh, Madam Sifai Haidara of West Coast Region. I want to recognize all the chiefs here present under the leadership of the Paramount Chief of the Gambia, Mr. Demba Sanyang. Area councillors, and also the Dean and members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, and service chiefs, venerable religious leaders, our distinguished brothers and sisters and homecomers from the diaspora, which is the 6th region of Africa. Of course, also recognizing some dignitaries among them. We also have guests from Spain, represented by Princess Beatrice of Spain and delegation, Dr. Julius Gavin, Dr. Rashidi, Mutabaruka, Sisla Kalonji, Scratulus and Princess, festival promoters both in the US and UK, all homecomers here present, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen from the diaspora. Staff of the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, including the National Organizing Committee of this 11th edition of the Roots Homecoming Festival. Distinguished invited guests, youths of the Gambia as well as of Africa, women of the Gambia and indeed of Africa, members of the local and international press here present, women councillors, Women's Federation representatives, Yai Compins, mobilizers, cultural groups and artists, party militants, school children and teachers, all other protocols duly and respectfully observed. Good evening. It is indeed an honor and delight to deliver the keynote address on behalf of His Excellency the President, Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Ejeye Jammeh, who would have really liked to be here with you today, but due to unavoidable circumstances, he could not be available and thus asked me to grace this auspicious occasion on his behalf. He, however, brings you the best of greetings and wishes during this very important ceremony. I therefore read his statement as follows. I'm grateful to the Almighty Allah, first and foremost, for the opportunity given to preside over the opening ceremony of yet again another international Roots Homecoming Festival. This one, of course, being the 11th edition. This festival has now become a regular occurrence, no doubt, in our national biennial calendar of events. And indeed, it is also an occasion which brings us together with our brethren in the diaspora to celebrate and indeed promote Africa's culture and value systems, which have withstood the test of time, despite the disruptions, of course, through the slave trade, colonialism, and others, the onslaught of alien and mostly decadent Western-based cultures, which seek to undermine our very value system and its norms and values. Before the advent of colonialism, Africans had in place proper political and administrative structures, which, if not perturbed, could have been the basis of our own development paradigm in Africa. But thanks to our griots, of course, who kept it alive, as well as our parents and grandparents and forebears, of course, it's still living. But thanks to them, it's been sustained, and to nurture love, peace, and tranquility, especially in the Gambia, the smiling coast of Africa. Therefore, when my government instituted the International Roots Homecoming Festival in 1996, our objective was to ensure that Africans, especially those in the diaspora, could come home to learn from our rich value system in Africa, the value system of their ancestors, which are still very useful to us Africans, who continue to embrace them. Also, through the festival, of course, we can also forge closer ties with our brothers and sisters in the diaspora for mutual cooperation and development. I wish to therefore welcome all our brothers and sisters from the diaspora who are here with us today, having traveled, of course, this time with dignity, thousands of miles across the Atlantic, to return home and be reunited with their own kith and kin after we have been separated from each other for hundreds of years. The Gambia, the smiling coast of Africa, is home to all people of the African descent. As an untainted gem, of course, preserved from all forms of pollution, we maintain this country as a land of peace, tranquility, and harmony. We pride ourselves as a model for peaceful coexistence between different religions and ethnic groups. As we herald, therefore, the much-awaited African Renaissance, the Gambia beckons all Africans to the smiling coast as a knowledge hub and as a platform for the propagation of authentic African culture. We also value the assistance we just had from Mr. Garvey, Dr. Garvey, that being a physician himself is willing to come to the Gambia and assist in our health sector. That is what we expect from our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. Thank you, Doctor. Here we nurture the roots of creative African intellectual power, and we protect genuine African heritage, out of which shall blossom, of course, the fruits of our minds. The dreams of past and present generations of the black race are now taking a life of their own, no doubt. The world now realizes, indeed, that Africa is the next frontier for socio-economic transformation, especially the capitalizing on the demographic dividend that we have emerging from our young population in Africa. Africa has the youngest population in terms of amounts, quantities, the world over. Our doors are open and we remain friends of all races, but of course, our heritage and dignity will not surely be traded at any cost for any bait, be it economic or ideological in nature. I reckon that the theme for this edition is African culture, its challenges and prospects in the 21st century. This theme is not only apt, but also relevant, especially in a world that is becoming more and more globalized, and where there is the tendency for the long-held cultural values of our people being swept under the carpet in the name of modernization and so-called democracy. Africa's value systems stand threatened and calls for deep reflection, therefore, so as to which way Africa and Africans want to go We owe it to our future generations to preserve those cultural values and norms that are pivotal, and indeed a pivotal part of our heritage, on which hinges our identity as a people and provides us with the strength, courage, as well as wisdom to continue to deal with neo-colonial nuances and hegemony that manifests itself in diverse ways and threaten our value systems as we march forward for political and economic emancipation and real independence. We indeed have to at all costs decolonize our economies and our minds. That is what we need as Africans to be free and really emancipated. In spite of Africa's wealth and resources, the continent surely continues to grapple with the contradiction of being one of the richest continents in the world, no doubt, in terms of resources in abundance. And yet her subjects continue to remain poor, undernourished, and undereducated, unfortunately. Therefore, it behoves all Africans to rise up in unison and address all these challenges and bring the continent out of the doldrums of poverty and other forms, of course, of underdevelopment that we are experiencing in the context of the African Union's Pan-Africanism and African Renaissance 2063 agenda. In this regard, the International Roots Festival is therefore not just a cultural celebration for the celebration's sake, but rather for us all to appreciate and indeed recognize our cultural diversity in unity as a source of our strength, while also serving as a platform to bring together our people, those inside the continent and those outside, for us to interact, reflect, and dialogue, and thus create understanding among ourselves for mutual cooperation and the development of our dear motherland and continent of Africa. In short, it is a moral and historical duty and responsibility for all African peoples to stand up and indeed be counted and make a positive contribution to Africa's development. At this juncture, I wish to congratulate the Honorable Minister of Tourism and Culture once again and her team, as well as the National Organizing Committee and all the promoters who have in one way or the other contributed to the successful organization of the 11th edition of the International Roots Festival in the Gambia. With these few remarks, I now wish to take the singular honor and pleasure to declare the 11th edition of the International Roots Festival officially open. May Allah the Almighty continue to bless the African continent. Long live African unity. Long live the African brotherhood and sisterhood with the diaspora. Long live the Roots Homecoming Festival. I thank you all for your kind attention, and may God bless.